I'm out here in Mama Nature, and I'm reflecting as I'm walking, contemplating how there's many what we may call saints, mystics, even scientists, ascetics, prophets, whatever the label, other mystical people, even prominent religious leaders and other spiritual peoples, that if we're not careful, we may interpret them as propounding a philosophy of good versus evil. And there's really no need to look at the world in terms of right and wrong. We don't need to look at life in terms of this and that. We can simply understand that every action has a consequence, right? That's the essence of all spiritual progress and spiritual practice, to accept the willingness that, hey, every single act, I accept the fact that it has a consequence. Even those seemingly insignificant acts, they can be insidious. They can sneak up on us if we're not conscious, if we're not careful. For instance, that cookie after dinner. You might think that, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. And there isn't, right? Again, we don't need to see it in terms of right or wrong. Just understand that, that one cookie may turn into 2 cookies. And compounded over time, that initial cookie didn't really have any negative effect. But if you think of the consequence over time, if that becomes a habit, then, like I said, it can sneak up on us if we're not conscious, if we're not careful. So, thus we want to understand what we could call the pleasure-pain balance. Pleasure and pain, and right and wrong, good and evil, they're all they're not really reality. But nevertheless, we may experience these different labels subjectively. So, the pleasure-pain balance. I love chocolate, for instance. So, I go to have a piece of chocolate, right? And, if I'm not careful, that one piece can turn into 2 pieces. Oh, I'm enjoying this. I love this. This is mine, right? This chocolate is mine. So, I'm the personal enjoyer. And when we think of ourselves as the personal enjoyer, and we don't devote that to the life force within us, the energy within us, and we don't eat with the intention of transmuting that chocolate into some kind of service, then, we think of ourselves as the personal enjoyer. This is mine, not thine, Lord. And thus it can be really easy to get caught up in a pleasure trap and kind of a rut, a cyclical habit of indulging in this, thinking that my happiness is found in that as opposed to found within. Now, all the spiritual people, I'll tell you, well, maybe not all of them, but all the integrists, spiritual preachers or leaders or peoples will tell you, hey, look within. And they wouldn't tell you to look there if what was to be found was negative or evil. telling you that because they've looked within themselves, and what they found, they realize is within everybody else. And thus they want to share that message. It's not the teacher or the preacher that's important. It's the message. Actually, the teacher and the message are non-different. There's no triad of me, you, and a message. It's all synonymous. It's all part of the ongoing, continuous process of life. And so you don't want to get caught up in the pleasure trap, because then we'll not be aware of that balance of the energy within us. That goes with the chakra system, right? The acupuncture system. Our inner energy. Wherever that is within us currently is gonna largely determine our thought process. And in the same way, our thought process affects that energy. It goes both ways. Our inner attitudes and thoughts at every single moment, at the exact passing moment of each instant, if we're willing to surrender to it, we'll be highly conscious of how our thoughts affect this energy within us. And we'll get to a point where we realize, hey, we're not the thoughts. We're the awareness that's aware of the thoughts. We're the consciousness that is the simple loving witness in that stillness amidst the presence, which is the only place now where the living God, the living presence can be found. It's not to be found without. Of course, we can look out at the world and appreciate it and revel in the beauty of it. But we don't want to get caught up in the notion that that's it. There's more to life than the 5 sensory experience. That profound stillness. We can become conscious of the inner cosmos, this energy within us. There's this book by Osho. It's great. It's called From Sex to Superconscious. Superconsciousness. And a lot of people probably focus on the sex part, right? And neglect the fact that we all can witness what we label superconsciousness within us. At first, we have to be conscious, not just regularly conscious of this energy within us, the life force, which is the sexual energy. And if we're caught up in an animal propensity of releasing that energy outwardly, or indulging in the 5 sensory, fleshly, sexual experience, then that is negatively affecting the nervous system and the energy within us. We want that energy to rise. We don't want it to get caught up in the lower regions. That's where the negative emotions arise from. If our energy is kind of stuck in those lower realms, the lower dimensions, the lower chakras, of our energy system. You want to overcome those emotions, and it happens naturally once we elevate in frequency, once we elevate in consciousness. It's not something we have to force. Those emotions are automatically transcended once this life force begins to build within us, and we appreciate and respect and protect and nourish the essence, which is intrinsic to everything, every human being. It's in the tree. Rasa, the essence, the life force of the tree, is the same of that which is within me, eternally. Eternally continuous process of life. It's of so much significance. That's what gives me a sense of meaning and purpose. Of course, life in itself, in its pure essence, doesn't really have any meaning because it's beyond the mind. It's found in that stillness.